Good Tuesday evening. You're watching the Crowded Booth. I'm Will Maness. When you just see me on the screen, you know what we're talking about. You see the title. We got to talk about Auburn football. How do we get here? What's going on? What's going to happen moving forward? Um, yeah, so buckle up. I've already seen some good comments. Keep them coming.
Pile in here and make yourself feel at home. The crowded booth is coming on. The Crowded Booth with Bryce Coon.
What's going on, everybody? I'm Will Maness. Welcome into the Crowded Booth. There we go, Zach. I like that. The Crowded Booth with Will Maness. I like that. As the title says, the brutal truth about Auburn football. We're going to talk about just the state of Auburn football right now, halfway through the 2025 season, 2.5 seasons into the Hugh Freeze tenure at Auburn. Keep the comments rolling. Help drive this conversation, because I was texting Bryce and Ralph a little bit before the show, and I'm like, I don't really know what else to say. I feel like I've said everything on the show. If you watch the live shows, you've pretty much heard my thoughts. But this will be like a long-winded, full-form conversation about what's going on, what do I think about it, how bad is it really. It's probably not as bad as I say it is. If you've been watching us for a while, you would probably agree with that, because I'm pretty negative when it comes to Auburn football. Good comment, Maxwell. I'll get to that. TD Jake thinks it'd be worse. Well, you could have Jeff Collins as your coach. It's true. That is true. So let's just start. Let's just do like a bit of a synopsis. How did we get here? How did we get here on October 14th, 2025? Hugh Freeze has coached 31 games for the Auburn Tigers. He has a losing record. I'll go ahead and throw this up here. 31 games. Hugh Freeze is 14-17 overall, 5-14 in the SEC, 7-16 against Power 4 opponents, 9-9 at home, and 0-3 to start SEC play in 3 straight seasons, which is the first time that's ever happened in the history of Auburn football, by the way. I like that better. The default screen was where it was supposed to be the 3 of us on the side. I like this better. First time ever in Auburn football. They've been playing football at Auburn for 130 years, just about 130 years. The SEC has been a conference. I probably should have looked this up, but the SEC has been a conference for roughly 100 years. So we're seeing unprecedented things at Auburn. And, you know, I do want to be clear. This is not completely Hugh Freeze's fault, right? 3 years ago, he took over an absolute mess of a college football program. I mean, it was I don't know what I'm doing exactly here. We'll just leave it up there. I'm playing around too much with stuff instead of talking. He took over an absolute mess from Brian Harsin. There are a few holdovers left here in Freeze's 3rd season, and Freeze really, you know, in addition to raising the talent level on the roster, which he has done an excellent job of, you can't argue that. The talent that he has now today in 2025 it's a complete 180 from what he walked into in December of 2022. Right. So he's done a great job in that regard. So basically the last 2 years, he kind of got a pass. Right. And now here we are, year 3, halfway through year 3, Auburn sitting at 3-3. And Auburn's lost 3 straight SEC games for 3rd year in a row. So people are frustrated, and rightfully so. I am frustrated. being at the game on Saturday night. I don't know if you can hear it, but my voice is still recovering from that game on Saturday night. It was that game, the Auburn Georgia game, and just looking at it in a vacuum, looking at it, with blinders on, was really kind of a microcosm of the two programs, right? I mean, it was Georgia under Kirby Smart, like we've seen for 9 seasons, uh, 10 seasons under Kirby Smart. The second half adjustments, Georgia, Kirby Smart and his staff are the best in college football at it, in my opinion. And I was sitting there at halftime, had Georgia fans around me asking, "Well, what do you think? What do you think?" I was like, "Y'all are going to come back and win this game." The energy was sucked out of the stadium. Georgia, I'm not going to get into my opinions on the calls, but Georgia knocking the ball loose at the goal line, recovering the fumble, and being able to go down the field from inside their own 1 yard line and kicking a field goal to go into the half. The energy, the life was sucked out of the building. And then the second half from Georgia, it was just death by 1,000 cuts. I mean, just sitting there, just methodical, boom, 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 6 yards, 8 yards, 9 yards, 4 yards, doing whatever they wanted to against Auburn. For the most part, it was just like I could see it coming. I saw it coming from a mile away, and it was hard to watch. And somebody sent the picture of Brian Kelly in the Discord when Bryce and I announced in there we were going to be doing the show tonight. Brian Kelly, we're sitting here again talking about the same things, and that's how I felt for, we'll say, from the midpoint of his first year, Freeze's first year in 2023. Feel like I'm talking about the same things again. I mean, the defense playing more than well enough to win the game, and the offense not being able to find a way. And Hugh Freeze, the primary play caller, supposed to be an offensive guru, a mastermind, and the offense just isn't good enough. And it's at the point now where it's hard to watch. Myself, other Auburn fans are honestly tired of seeing the same things, right? And Auburn fans, of course, I have a biased opinion, but I feel like Auburn fans, for the most part, are pretty smart when it comes to football, and at least can recognize the talent. I'm stealing this from Paul Feinbaum. He was on an Auburn podcast today, so he was probably pandering to the audience some, but he said it like Auburn fans are for the reputation that Auburn fans have of being very demanding and quick to want to fire coaches and quick to fire coaches is really kind of only half true, I think, because fans understand the talent level on the roster, no matter who the coach is. And I think Auburn fans just want to see this football team play to the level that they're capable of. And looking at those numbers that Hugh Freeze has put up as Auburn's head coach, especially in 2025, 3-3 is not good enough. And when you go out and rightly or wrongly, fairly or unfairly, you're paying a quarterback $2 million. You're paying, I don't know how much you're paying Eric Singleton. I don't know how much you're paying Cam Coleman. You go out in the transfer portal, you get 2 brand new offensive tackles to flank your offensive line, and it's been more of the same. It's been more of the same, and it's been tough to watch. So I want to look at the. Can we read that? If you can't read it, let me know. This is the 2025 game log. I really want to look at penalties here, and this is a huge problem. 13 penalties against Oklahoma, 11 against Georgia, 10 against Texas A&M, 9 against Baylor, 8 against Ball State. This right here is an example of what I started talking about back in April, that any success that this Auburn football team has in 2025 will be in spite of the coaching. I can't understand why you can't fix a lot of these penalty issues. I can't understand it. I mean, that's inexcusable. Inexcusable to have double digit penalties. I mean, and ultimately that's why Auburn lost those games. You can talk about how the game was officiated and do all that. I'm not going to, because you score 17 points against Oklahoma, you score 10 against Georgia, you score 10 against Texas A&M, you score 0 against Georgia in the second half. 0. You put up, let's see, I've got the number in the second half. I'm looking at stat right here. We go. This is what I'm looking for. Second half, Auburn has 40 yards of offense against Georgia. 40 in one half of football. You're not going to beat anybody. I don't care how the game's officiated. You're not going to beat anybody if you can only put up 40 yards of offense in a half. So just, penalties are a huge problem. And, well, I wasn't exactly prepared for this. I'm doing a bad job. I want to compare I want to compare this year to the prior years. Pete Gate, as always, when I'm on the screen. I look at 2023. The most penalties Auburn had in the game was 4, and that was in the bowl game against Maryland. How in the first year under Hugh Freeze, penalties aren't a problem, especially when the talent level is so much lower than it is in 2025. 2024 is similar. I won't pull that up, but I'll just read it to you. They started to become a problem last year. 9 penalties in the 4 overtime game against Texas A&M, 8 penalties against New Mexico in a 45-19 win, 7 penalties at home against Oklahoma, 6 against Cal, Kentucky, Vanderbilt, Alabama. So penalties are a problem. Yeah, here we go. Dev says it. Auburn is 130th out of 136 in penalties per game. I mean, that's on coaching, right? That's on coaching. Maxwell, this is the comment I knew was coming, and I was going to have trouble answering. What were your preseason expectations for this point of the season, record-wise? To be honest with you, I think it was 4-2, if I'm remembering correctly. I think it was 4-2 because I thought Auburn would be able to take one of these games on the road, one of these first 3 SEC games, take one of the Oklahoma or Texas A&M game coming into the season. This dude, it's not about you. It's not about you. Hop down. Oh. Pete wants to be about him. I think it was 4-2. But realistically, 3-3 was certainly would not be surprising. It's just frustrating when you watch the 6 games, especially the first game. I mean, Auburn comes out and runs for 300 yards on Baylor. They come out, run for 300 yards on Baylor, and then Hugh Freeze basically abandons the run game. It doesn't make any sense. It makes no sense. And Jackson Arnold has not been great. He's been great at taking care of the ball, which you got to have that too. But yeah, because I don't feel genuine by being so upset at 3-3, because it makes a lot of sense why Auburn's 3-3, right? I mean, you look at it realistically. It's probably, I mean, Auburn's still in a good spot. I mean, everything ultimately, I thought, what I say, 8-4, 8-4, I think would be Auburn's record, and Auburn could certainly go out and do that, or at least be 7-5. I don't think Auburn's going to beat Missouri on Saturday, but Auburn opened as a favorite according to Vegas. That's already moved uh, and been changed. Missouri's now the favorite. Um, but Auburn could still do it. But it's just the offense has been so anemic and so just pitiful to watch that, yeah, yeah, it's more so how you got to 3-3 than anything else. Yeah, it is. Yeah, and everybody's feeling the same way. Maxwell, your other question: do you think he's banking on the team's talent more than the need to develop them? That's a tough one to answer because you look at the history of Hugh Freeze, and I wouldn't say he's really ever been a talent developer. Yeah, yeah, I think he's certainly banking on the talent, um, especially offensively, because this offense, I think it's anemic is the easy way to put it. I think it's archaic scheme wise. Um, I don't think it's very creative. Um, some of you probably saw my comments in the Discord comparing it to Buster Faulkner's offense. Um, in every aspect of it, the scheme, the play calling, blocking schemes. I mean, Buster Faulkner's offense is far better than Hugh Freeze's. In short, Hugh Freeze in his offense, he's not putting the players in position to make the plays to win games. Um, and he talks about execution. That's part of the battle too. Um, Auburn could have Jackson Arnold could have had a couple 50+ yard touchdown passes. The big one that stands out in the second half was the one to Eric Singleton where he missed the throw. Singleton's wide open on the post. He did take a hit coming straight up the middle. Xavier Miller, who's kind of the swing guy, the sixth offensive lineman for Auburn, was in for an injured Jeremiah Wright, and he just got flattened at the snap, and it forced um, Arnold to make a bad throw. Arnold missed Cam Coleman up the sideline in the second quarter. He had, I believe it was Dalen Everett on the play, had him beat by 2 or 3 yards, not steps, yards. And he underthrew him, and Everett knocked the ball away. And that would have been a walk-in touchdown if he could make that throw. But part of that is rhythm. I mean, Jackson Arnold has yet to get in rhythm early in a game, and it shows late in games. He can't make those big throws. As an OU fan, Maxwell says, as an OU fan, I hate to see him being at least one of the negative factors bringing another team down. I feel like that's sarcastic. I mean, I think he's a great athlete. There's no doubt about it. I think the quarterback run needs to be a much bigger part of the offense, but I think you got to run the ball. Run it a lot more. Dev says, no one on the offense looks like they have chemistry with each other. Yeah, they don't. I mean, what are they working on at practice? What are they working on? And, I mean, it makes me think back to early in fall camp where Hugh Freeze said he's having to tell DJ Durkin to take it easy so Jackson Arnold can build some confidence. That's a problem. That's a problem, and it's rearing its ugly head at this point in the season. So I don't want to sit here and ramble. Okay, I'll take this one from TD Jake. Why is the offensive line so abysmal? It's a great question. I think they're very poorly coached. I said it after the Texas A&M game. I thought Jake Thornton should have been let go after that game because the offensive line play was just that bad. Mason Murphy at right tackle coming out of USC, Xavier Chaplin at left tackle transferring from Virginia, two of the higher rated tackles in the transfer portal, and they have come to Auburn and have been subpar, to say the least. They have not been great. Connor Lew consensus preseason All-American center, second or third team, I think. Preseason second team All-SEC, I think, at center. He's been all right. He got banged up in the Oklahoma game, but he's been okay. But something's off between him and Arnold, because the protections have been weird, to say the least. And I don't think the protections play to the strengths of the players, and that's on coaching. And then you throw in the fact that Xavier Chaplin, they found out during the bye week, he's got hearing issues. So it's just, I call Auburn football a three-ring circus because it feels like it is. I mean, you talk about the offensive line play being bad, and then all of a sudden your left tackle that you go and get out of the transfer portal, you find out in the middle of the year that he's got a hearing problem. David asked, what's Hugh Freeze's buyout? Is he coaching AU come fall 26? Tripp says it, buyout is $14.4 million. Reportedly, it is Hugh Freeze coaching Auburn come fall 2026. It very much depends on how this season ends. Because like I said, Auburn could go the last 6 games being 4-2 or even 5-1. And that would certainly save his job. Now things would have to, it would be a 180 from what we've seen the last 3 games. Because you think about those last 3 games, if Auburn could have scored 23 points in any of those games, they win them. That's how good the defense has been. And that's ultimately the most frustrating part about it is Hugh Freeze is an offensive guy. He's an offensive guy, he's supposed to be an expert, a guru, and the offense is bad. It's very bad for a number of reasons. And it's not just Jackson Arnold. It's not just the offensive line. It's everybody. Austin says, I expect to see many more design runs from Arnold last weekend. Me too. I mean, we've talked about it for 15 years. What's been the Achilles heel of a Nick Saban or Kirby Smart defense? A quarterback that can run. Saw it last year with Oklahoma, how they beat Alabama. Jackson Arnold ran all over them. I honestly expect him to run the ball maybe 15, maybe 20 times against Georgia. And he ran it effectively when he did. It just got away from it in the second half. Dev, you hit the nail on the head right here. If you're running this type of offense, I cannot understand why you don't want to use motion to play the numbers game in the box when you run. Absolutely. I mean, you watch it every week with Georgia Tech. That's what Buster Faulkner does. It's motion on 95% of plays. What motion does is it causes the defense to tip its hand, right? You figure out where the strength of the defense on that play is, where the numbers are going to be for the defense on a given play. That's what you learn from motion. And if Auburn's running motion, it's just Eric Singleton or Malcolm Simmons either being a decoy or being an option in the flat or behind the line of scrimmage on an RPO. I mean, honestly, you should motion just for the sake of motion. And it, it sounds elementary. It sounds like it might be useless, but you need to, because you find out if the defense is playing man coverage or zone coverage. Most of the time, the elite defenses can still disguise that when you do that. But the vast majority of defenses you play, they're going to tip their hand whether they're playing at least man or zone. It just causes the defense to react. And that's another big problem I have with Hugh Freeze's offense. And I've been saying it probably since about this time last year. I just don't love the RPO based offense. And the way Auburn is running it is Auburn is letting the defense dictate what the offense is going to do. There's sometimes I sound like a caveman. I've done that before on the show. Sometimes you just got to be hard-headed. Right? If you know you can run the ball effectively, which Auburn has done all year, this offensive line has shown it is better at run blocking than it is pass blocking. Sometimes you got to say, I don't care if you're going to put 8 guys in the box. We're going to go hat on a hat, and we're just going to run right at you. This offense doesn't do that. If there's 6 in the box, Arnold's going to pull it and throw it. Or they're going to audible to a pass. that, you know, it, the opening drive of the Georgia game, I think I said this Sunday night, was the best drive of Hugh Freeze's time at Auburn. There was a ton of tendency breakers. You saw Brandon Frazier get more touches. That may not have been on the opening drive, but Auburn did a lot of different things in the first half, and especially on the opening drive that you have to do. And at times be hard headed in football. I mean, football is a game where you can just be physical. You can out physical somebody and win the game, right? We say that all the time. The game's won on the lines of scrimmage. Sometimes that's by being hard headed, flexing your muscles, going after somebody, getting it done. But it's just dysfunctional, and it's bad to see. Okay, I want to look ahead. Hugh Freeze out the door. First one, Maxwell. Who would be your dream hire for once Freeze is gone? And he adds gone there later. It's John Summerall for me. I think Auburn has, a little. I got to think back to Auburn historically, right? This is, and we're going to get into the part of the conversation where I'm going to admit that Auburn is kind of cultish, and it starts here. The modern era of Auburn football starts in 1981 when Pat Dye was hired. Pat Dye, defensive background. Next coach, Terry Bowden, offensive background. After him, Tommy Tuberville, defensive background. Auburn doubled up, went Gene Chizik, defensive background. Then Gus Malzahn, offensive background. Brian Harsin, offensive background. Hugh Freeze, offensive background. Since 1981, I think, and Auburn has been at its best. You look at the SEC championships for Auburn. Pat Dye won 5 or 6, I believe. Terry Bowden didn't win one because Auburn was on probation in 1993. Tommy Tuberville won an SEC championship. Gene Chizik won an SEC championship. Gus Malzahn is the anomaly. He's the one offensive-minded head coach that won an SEC championship. And I think that's Auburn's football DNA is playing defense and running the football. And Hugh Freeze has gotten part of that. It helps going and getting DJ Durkin, who's been, I mean, my gosh, the guy should probably win the Broyles Award for as good as Auburn's defense has been. Part of the reason why I want John Summerall is because of his defensive background. I mean, the guy won 10 games at Troy. I mean, next time Ralph's on here, we'll just get him to wax poetically about John Summerall. I think Summerall's a rising star. And Auburn really is a program that shouldn't be in the position to be like, yeah, we're gonna get this guy because we think he's a rising star. No, Auburn should be getting established guys, but I think the Auburn job is at a point now where that's kind of what Auburn's got to do. I mean, if it's not John Summerall, if you're talking about an established guy with SEC experience that is just inches away from getting over the hump, it's Lane Kiffin, and that's, I guess, my dream hire is Lane Kiffin. Kind of pie in the sky, but I think that ship has sailed. I think if Auburn was going to hire Lane Kiffin, it would have been instead of Hugh Freeze in 2022. That ended up not happening. And I don't know if either parties are going to want to go down that road again. But stranger things have happened. But I think a more realistic dream hire would be John Summerall. Get a defensive guy back in here. I love the way that he handles the media. After they played Tulsa, which was Tulsa coming off their win against Oklahoma State. Tulane won. They weren't perfect, of course. And Summerall, I feel like the way that he criticized feels like too harsh for, but the way he criticized his own players, I think he did it in a way and said it in a way that, like, he's going to build these guys up. He's not going to throw them under the bus to the media, which I think has happened too much in the last two and a half years at Auburn. Gosh, I've said it many times. I mean, you put a microphone in Freeze's face and he puts his foot in his mouth. but yeah, my dream is John Summerall. I would love John Summerall. Trip says, okay, when you make a change, and if that is the conversation, what are options? Not Collins. No, not Jeff Collins. I thought going into the bye week before the Georgia game was the time to do it because the offense was so bad. Um, I don't know. I don't know. The next Auburn's second bye week is before Mercer, and that seems like a moot point to fire a guy going into a week off before a bye game. I don't know. I mean, certainly if Auburn gets run off their own field by Missouri on Saturday night, I don't think I don't think Auburn's administration is going to be left with any other choice. Um, Options, like I said, Lane Kiffin, John Summerall. Um, if you know Auburn, if you follow Auburn, there's going to be some names that are thrown around. You're like, why in the world? And those names are probably going to be um, Charles Kelly at Jacksonville State, former Auburn player and Auburn assistant. Jimbo Fisher. Yeah, that guy used to coach at Auburn too. Curious to see what happens at Arkansas because I wouldn't. Bobby Petrino, the guy who almost got the Auburn job back in the day. James Franklin, I think, will be in the conversation, which would be very interesting. I don't know really what to think about that idea. I want to have a high floor. Certainly have a high floor. But I think those are kind of the people are going to say Rhett Lashley. I don't think that's going to happen, but I'm sure Auburn people will try to get in touch with him. G.J. Kinney at Texas State is a hot young name, but I don't know. He's very inexperienced. That's his first head job at Texas State. What else we got here before we get out of here? Alex, I agree. He says to have an identity, you have to be a little stubborn instead of running away as soon as something doesn't work, and that is Auburn football under Hugh Freeze currently. I've heard some very, very concerning things if you're an Auburn fan and about the effect that officiating has had on the staff and in turn the team from these last three games. And to me, that's concerning because it tells me that Auburn's just a mentally weak football team. And I think we saw that on Saturday night. After the fumble, the Auburn sideline just devolved into chaos, which to me is a sign of poor leadership. I mean, you listen. It's a completely different scale. It's not even comparable. But you know, I coach middle school baseball, and I tell my players, umpires, referees, officials, they all suck. They're all terrible. They're all out to get you, and they suck for everybody. So you can't be sitting around worried about and waiting on them and depending on them to make the right call. You have to go out and make plays. Right. And that was not being said at the end of that first half. And it's part of the reason why Georgia, they run a quarterback sneak from inside the 1 yard line and then bust off a 12-yard run because we're still confused and wondering why we don't have a touchdown on the board. You got to be able to flush it and let things go. And it's, you got to be stubborn. Sometimes you got to be stubborn. Has Auburn lost brand value? Austin asked. I don't know because I'm probably too biased to answer that accurately, right? Because of course I'm going to say no. Auburn hasn't lost brand value. They're still in the SEC. It's still a premier job. I mean, if I mean, and I'm talking about all this, and the Auburn job's not even open, right? The job's not all open. Auburn can certainly, Hugh Freeze can rectify things. I think it is a very, very steep hill to climb to save things, which is part of the reason why we get on here and talk about it tonight. But, I think barring another unforeseen job opening, Auburn would be the most or the second most attractive job. Maybe third. Maybe third. I mean, if you put them in a tier list, Auburn, Florida, Penn State, if all three of those were open, those would be the three most desirable jobs open. So I don't know. I think I'm too biased to answer truthfully if Auburn's lost brand value. What's a realistic hire, Zach? At this point, I don't know. That's a great question. Alex says Coach O. Coach O would be electric. Manny Diaz. I've got questions about Manny Diaz because Auburn still, and I could just be a fan and be out there, but I still think that Auburn's a place that you can win a national championship, and the expectation is compete, right? Compete at the top of the SEC, get in the playoff, and see what happens. The expectation is not to win a national title. It's just to compete in the SEC, beat your rivals, which the last three Auburn coaches have struggled mightily at doing, outside of Malzahn doing against Alabama. Like Hugh Freeze is 0-5 against Georgia and Alabama so far. He's the first Auburn coach ever to lose his first 5 meetings against Georgia and Alabama. First one ever. And I think that's where a lot of the frustration is. Because at Auburn, you're judged on 2 games, Georgia and Alabama. At the end of the day, that's how you're judged. That's why Gus Malzahn got a 7-year contract extension for beating Alabama. And I say all that to say I'm not sure if Manny Diaz is a guy that has national championship ceiling. I mean, he's been a head coach. He's had big jobs. He was at Miami and couldn't get things going. So I don't know. I think he's a great football coach. He's coached in the SEC, defense coordinator. I know at Mississippi State, maybe another stop. But I don't know. He doesn't move the needle for me. Yeah, Dev, I want to get to this. Criticizing your own players is soft as hell. If they're not playing to your standard, it's the coach's fault. He scouted and recruited them, and he coaches them. Yeah, and to that point, Dev, Hugh Freeze has been saying, "Well, we're not executing. We're not executing in the critical moments," as he likes to call them. If you're not satisfied with the players making the plays, take them out and put somebody else in. To me, that's coaching 101. That's common sense. If a guy's not getting the job done, try somebody else, right? It's kind of like it's the definition of insanity. Trying the same things over and over and hoping for a different result. Play somebody else if they're not good enough. I think it's simple, and at this point in the season, you can certainly do that. If Auburn hires Jeff Collins, you may not see me. You may not see me watching them. So this is about Bryce chiming in on Auburn's brand value. Sparkle has dwindled a bit, in my opinion. I would say that's fair. Because, I mean, how could you not view it that way? I mean, I've said it to them. We are witnessing probably the darkest of dark ages of Auburn football. I mean, 0-3 in the SEC for the first time ever. 14 wins in 31 games is probably the lowest amount in 30 games ever at Auburn. I mean, it's not good. And that's kind of the reason that's why I feel the way I feel. And it's just, I don't know. Still a great job. Bryce says, yeah, it is still a great job. Ready for basketball season? I don't even know. I don't even know if I am. I feel like I'm prepared for disappointment there too. TD Jake, you should be banned for that. Jonesy says Alex Golish. Alec Golish. His name's been mentioned to me several times. I just don't know. I don't know about him. I think he's a good coach. I think he's a good offensive mind. I don't know. Thoughts on Damari Austin? Yes. Alex, thank you for bringing this up. So if you don't know about the Damari Austin situation, Damari Austin just captain of the football team, voted on by his players preseason to be a captain. He's expected to have a big senior year. He's a guy that's waited his time at Auburn, shown flashes in the last 3 years when he's gotten to play. Some good things and some bad things. He had some fumbling problems. Had a great game against Baylor. Got banged up. So he's been pretty much out of the lineup. I think he got 4 carries. I've got the stats here. I don't know what I'm trying to think. 4 carries, I believe, against Georgia. 7 carries. 7 carries for 9 yards against Georgia. Obviously not his best. A couple of interesting plays from him. A couple of runs in the red zone. I think it was on the drive when Jackson fumbled at the goal line. He kind of bounced it outside. I think he bounced it outside too quickly and bounced it outside right into a tackle. If he follows his blocks, I think, or lets the play develop just a second or two more, probably walks in for a touchdown. On the field goal drive in the second quarter, he took the handoff on a sweep, and Auburn it looked like they wanted to run a reverse with Eric Singleton, and Austin didn't give the ball up. I think if he gives the ball up, I think Eric Singleton walks in on that play. So Damari's been hurt, didn't play his best game against Georgia by far. Meets with offensive coordinator, running backs coach Derek Nix and Hugh Freeze on Sunday and says, I'm not 100% healthy. I'd like to redshirt. I still want to be a part of this team. I'm still going to do everything that's expected of me, go to every workout, weight lift. I'll be your scout team running back. I just would like to use my red shirt. And Hugh Freeze wanted to sleep on it. And then Monday, it's decided that Damari Austin is no longer with the team. And over the last 2 days, he's gotten an outpouring of support from his teammates. Regardless of what's going on in the background, there's talk that there's now a dispute with the NIL collective, and that's why he couldn't just redshirt. Don't know all those details, but at the end of the day, it's a bad look if one of your team captains is off the team, and he wasn't kicked off the team, right? But the verbiage used by Hugh Freeze was he didn't meet the standards and expectations of our program. That makes it sound like he got in trouble and got kicked off the team. That's not the case. So I'm not sure why he would word it that way. But I sympathize with Hugh Freeze here because that puts him in a difficult spot. Because on one hand, if he lets Damari do it and stick around and be around, how many other players on the team are going to come up and say, hey, I want to use my red shirt now? Still be on the team, but not playing the games. Right. But also from Damari's side, I see his side too. It's like, I'm not 100%. I want to heal up. I want to be a part of this team. I want to be a part of this program. I want one more year next year when I'm 100% healthy and can give 100%. It's a tough situation. It's a tough situation. Jonesy says he stinks. Jonesy, don't be surprised if Damari Austin is Georgia Tech's running back next year. That's all I'm going to say. He's from Atlanta. Bryce says Auburn's going to have the money, but we're getting to the point with the lack of success that money is the only selling point. You're right. And at some point, the money's going to go away. Alex says which OC sucks? First down, second down, or the third down one? Nice. Anything else? Oh, Maxwell, do you think Brent Key at least gets a call? Some of my Auburn fan friends want him. Yes, I saw your comment about this earlier and forgot to go back to it. I think he does get a call, but I don't think Brent Key would take the Auburn job. I don't. Brent Key played at Alabama. No, he didn't. He played at Georgia Tech. Ignore that. I knew he played at Georgia Tech. He grew up an Alabama fan and played at Georgia Tech. I can't see him taking the Auburn job just because of his loyalties. He's a very loyal person, very convicted person. But, it depends. When you get into the coaching profession, you can't be a fan, right? You have to do what's best for you and your family. But I just can't see him, if offered, taking the job. I just can't. Yes, Alex says Singleton was pissed after that play. Yep. Whoa. Andy, this is a very interesting comment. Georgia Tech fans wish they were Auburn right now. And he says, Auburn is my second team. I'm pissed. Hated the Freeze hire from the get-go. Yeah, the Freeze hire was kind of underwhelming, but at the time I remember thinking, like, well, who else are you going to get? If Lane Kiffin tells you no, who are you going to get? That's a bold claim that Georgia Tech fans wish they were Auburn right now. That's a bold claim. We had this discussion. I think Bryce talked about it on Swarm Talk, maybe. Who wishes they were who, Georgia Tech or Auburn fans? And I don't think Auburn fans wish they were Georgia Tech, and I don't think Georgia Tech fans wish they were Auburn. That's what I think. Yeah, don't think he's going to Auburn. Great question, Austin. Why do people think these coaches having success at other schools would want the Auburn job? Yeah, the Auburn job's a pressure cooker. There's no doubt about it. I mean, I said it earlier. You're judged against how you perform and how you stack up against Georgia and Alabama. And, I said this about Gus Malzahn. You've heard me say it a million times, Austin. I think Gus Malzahn is a easy top 5 coach. Maybe you could argue top 3 coach in the history of Auburn football. He just had the unfortunate circumstance of being at Auburn when Alabama and Georgia both were the 2 premier programs in the country playing for national championships almost every single year. Made the job even more difficult when they're that good. But to narrow in on your question, narrow down the answer, brand value. You're in the SEC. Everybody knows Auburn. And Auburn has struck up the reputation that, hey, you can come to Auburn, and if you're not good, we're going to pay you a lot of money to go away. I know every school does that, but it seems like Auburn is kind of the punching bag. Brent Key, I haven't read this, Nancy, but I believe you. His name, Brent Key, being mentioned for Penn State. Doesn't surprise me. Okay, Andy, you were being sarcastic. Also says, I've heard Signetti, why would he leave? Brent Key, why would he leave? He's about to make the playoff already. What's the point? I agree. I agree with you. I think you asked me earlier, if Auburn fires Freeze, are they starting over? I don't want to hear that argument because of what Signetti has done at Indiana, how fast you can turn a program around. So I'm kind of over and done with I just need time. Now Freeze had 2 years, and when you have 2 straight top 10 recruiting classes and another one that you salvaged to be top 50, you've got enough talent to be competitive. No one, I'll go back to what Paul Feinbaum said. Nobody. Maxwell, you're the last comment. I'll get to that and I'll close it out. Nobody. I didn't hear a single Auburn person say Auburn has to make the playoff this year for Hugh Freeze to keep his job. Nobody said he's got to win the SEC. Nobody said he's got to win 10 games. A lot of people, myself included, saw a path to 9 wins. But everybody said if he wins 7, 8, or 9 games, he's good. We're good. We got something to build on. Nobody expected with this offense you're only going to put up 17 points your first 17 points a game in your first 3 SEC games. So that's expectations have changed, rightly or wrongly, but it's because of the product on the field. Nancy, yes, Auburn does have the talent. Alex says the goal is a bowl game. You listen to Hugh Freeze too much. Okay, last one. This one I'm going to wrap up with. Talk about the cult aspect some more. And maybe I feel this way because I grew up an Auburn fan. Both of my parents went to Auburn. My dream was to always go to Auburn. Hasn't worked out yet. I'm not going to say it didn't work out. It hasn't worked out yet just because of life and career choices that I have made. Maybe this is why I feel this way. And, you know, me and Bryce and Ralph and Gavin, we'll joke about the Auburn Creed, but the Auburn Creed is very real. And I'm waiting on Gavin to put it on in the comments, put the creed in the comments. And I go back to Pat Dye. Pat Dye never stepped foot in Auburn before he got the Auburn job, but it's countless amount of people have said he lived and embodied the Auburn Creed. Work hard, work. I don't know if anybody has heard it. I don't know the creed by heart. I'm not going to pull it up and read it for you, but work hard, work. I believe in work, hard work. I believe this is a practical world, right? Basically, the Auburn Creed to me says you get out of life what you put into it. You have to work hard. You have to be driven. You have to be smart, make good decisions. There he is, because I believe in work, hard work. I think you have to have somebody, whether they're an Auburn person or not, whether they played at Auburn, went to Auburn, whatever, that embodies that, right? You have to have somebody that's not going to shy away from the challenge of what the Auburn job is, somebody that is not going to make excuses for why they're not getting the job done. Caveman speak. Yeah, good one, Zach. I think that's what Auburn's got to have leading their football program. I think Auburn has strayed away from that the last 5 years, and I think that's part of the reason why Auburn is in the boat that they're in. Yep, Dev, it's tech man stuff. You just don't want to see the progress yet. So, I want Auburn. I can just say this. The last two Auburn coaches I think have at times struggled with accountability for the way their football team is performing. I'm talking about football only. They've struggled to take ownership. They have tended to blame others, blame the players for not making plays, blame officials, blame whoever, whatever, instead of saying, we're not good enough. That starts with me. We have to get better. Because, and I've said it on live shows many times, it all starts and ends with the head coach. Anything that's wrong, it falls on the head coach. Anything that doesn't work out, it falls on the head coach. And I believe that even more watching Auburn play, even as bad as things have been for Auburn this year, at least in the SEC games, last 3 games, the players are still playing hard, right? So you can't fault effort. You can't fault attitude a lot of the times from the players. So, I don't know. You got to have somebody that is going to uphold the standard, right? I think the standard has fallen, basically. So I'm gonna wrap it up with that. Auburn's got some cult type stuff, but that's cult is part of culture. Cult, you can't spell culture without cult. Clip that. Put that on out of context. I just think the last 2 hires have been outside of Auburn's culture, and I think that's part of the reason why Auburn has struggled the way that it has. Okay, I did not expect a Jeff Collins rant to go off in the comments, but appreciate you watching, appreciate you hanging out. Thanks for all the comments. Made it a little bit easier for me to get through because I feel like I've been beating a dead horse with all this. But like the stream, subscribe to the channel, don't miss any live shows. Join the Discord so you don't miss a show. We put all the shows in there. A lot of great college football talk going on all the time over there. So thanks for watching. Like, hit the subscribe, hit the bell. Y'all have a good night.
Pile in here and make yourself feel at home. The crowded booth is coming on. The crowded booth.